Hi guys, this is Mr. Schaffner. Today we're going to go over District Assessment, Part 2, numbers 20 through 46. Now watch this video, see how I work it out, see if you can figure out what I have done. You will be taking your District Assessment next week. So this will be a quick review of some of the items. You have the booklet in front of you. As I go over it, I will read it. You read it from the book to see what question I am talking about. We're going to start with question 20. That says the table shows the cost for different numbers of boxes of caramel corn. As I work these out, I want you to write exactly what I write on the board onto your paper. This will be turned in for a grade. So there I can read that there is 3 boxes for $3.75, 7 for $8.75, 9 for $11.25, and 13 for $16.25. And it says which equation represents this relationship. What I'm looking for is I am looking for a unit rate. So to be able to do this unit rate, I would put that my constant is equal to y over x. So I'm looking for 3.75 divided by 3. And if they're all the same, this is the only one that I really have to do. And this turns out to be 1.25. To just be sure, though, we're going to do the others. 875 divided by 7, which turns out to be 1.25. 1125 divided by 9, which turns out to be 1.25, which is $1.25, and 16.25 divided by 13 turns out to be 1.25. So my constant is $1.25. So I'm looking at N is equal to 1.25 C. C is equal to 1.25 N. And then the other ones are the 3.75. That really doesn't matter. I am looking for that the cost is equal to $1.25 times the number of boxes. So this C is going to stand for cost. That's what I'm trying to find out. 1.25 N, where N is my number of boxes, which is indicated in the table. Finding the unit rate, finding the constant. Moving on to number 21. Says the amount that Danielle earns babysitting in a month is represented by the equation A equals 7.5H. In the equation, A represents the total amount that Danielle earns. The number of hours she babysits is represented by H. What is the constant of proportionality, or the unit rate, of A to H? Well, if A is equal to 7.5H, this is her total. This is her number of hours. H is the number of hours. Well, this 7.5 tells me how much that she makes for every hour. This is my constant. So this would be represented by she makes $7.50 per hour. This is my constant. Moving on to number 22. The school librarian wants to increase the number of students who read in their free time. He conducts a survey aimed at finding out what kinds of reading material would make students at his school most likely to read in their free time. Which sample would give the librarian the most useful results? Now, we've not talked about this, but it's talking about he doesn't have time to go around to every single student and ask what would cause you to read more. So he has to pull a sample. He's going to pull a few kids or a group of kids and ask them that would be representative of the whole school. So, if we look at question A, he's going to ask 20 people of all ages. So we have to consider, is this 20 people of the school, of the 6th, 7th, and 8th, or whatever grade level that they have? B says he's going to ask 100 people of all ages. Again, this is going to be the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Is he going to ask 20 people at the county library? Or is he going to ask 100 people at an after-school event? So we've got the 20 people of all ages. Now, if I'm looking at this in my head, I don't consider this just being just the kids at his school. He's going to ask old people, young people, middle-aged people. Then he's going to ask the same thing of 100 people. Well, between these two, asking 100 people is better than asking 20 people. If he goes to the county library, if he goes to the Luttrell Library, or if he goes to the Maynardville Library, he may not be getting kids at his school. So this one is not good, and this one is not good. So then he's going to go to 100 people at an after-school fundraiser. No, it says 100 students. That makes all the difference in the world. 100 students at an after-school fundraiser. Well, in this case, he is actually talking to the kids from the school. So we've got that 100 is better than 20, but it's 100 people. It could be 100 grandparents. And their answer is not going to be the same as their grandkids. So it's not this one. It has to be where he actually asks students the question. So in this case, the correct answer would be 100 students at an after-school event. Moving on to number 23. Pause the video at any time that you need to pause it so that you can copy down what's going on. Number 23. Mr. Anthony wants to know how some student athletes are improving in a number of push-ups they can do. These dot plots show the number of push-ups each student was able to do last month. 2 students could do 10 push-ups. 2 students could do 15 push-ups. 3 students could do 25 push-ups. And 1 student could do 35 push-ups. Then they move on to this month, and 1 student could do 10, 1 could do 15, 1 could do 25, 3 could do 30, and 2 could do 40. What is the increase in the mean number of push-ups from last month to this month? Mean means average. That means I add them all together and I divide by how many there were. So there was a 10, a 10, a 15, a 15, 25, 25, 25, and a 35. This was last month. So when I add all these together, I get 10 plus 10 plus 15 plus 15 plus 25 plus 25 plus 25 plus 35. And I hit equal. Now I divide that by, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people doing this test. Divide that by 8. And I get that the average, which means every kid, has an average of 20 push-ups. Some did more, some did less, but the average was 20. Now this month, there's a 10, a 15, a 25. There are 3 30s. And there are 2 40s. So obviously it went up. I don't want the time. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There were still 8 kids participating. So we have 10 plus 15 plus 25 plus 30 plus 30 plus 30 plus 40 plus 40. So they could do 220 push-ups, and I divide that by those same 8 kids. So they did an average of 27.5. Now it asks, what is the increase? Well, it was 20. It is now 27.5. Add this 0 to make it look the same. Has an increase of 7.5 push-ups. Mean is average, and average means just add them up and divide by how many that you have. Moving on to number 24. A solid with sides numbers 1 to 5 was rolled 150 times. The results are shown in the videos in the table. What is the experimental probability that the next roll is an even number? 1 was rolled 33 times. A 2 was rolled 30 times. A 3 was rolled 27 times. A 4 was rolled 24 times. A 5 was rolled 36 times. And it was only 1 through 5. And it wants to know even. So 2 is even, and 4 is even. So that was 30 plus 24, which is going to give me 54 times it was rolled. Now, when it says probability, it wants to know 54, and if you just tell me it was rolled 54 times, then I don't know how many times that you actually rolled it. So you have to tell me 54 out of 150. You have to tell me 54 out of 150. And if I simplify this, I get 27 over 75. Now, me personally, I don't like the 27 over 75. I like to know there were 150 rolls, and it happened 54 times. Oh, it wants a percent. Sorry. So if I want a percent, to find the percent here, I just need to divide. So I'm going to grab my calculator. It helps when you read the entire problem. I just read the top part, not the second part down at the bottom. So I'm going to do 54 divided by the 150 times that it happens, and that's going to give me 0.36. Notice I put the top one in first. Move this decimal 2 times. So this is going to be 36%. If you don't put the percent sign in, it's not going to be counted correct. So probability means the number that it happened over the total number that you did. This was even, and this is my rolls. Moving on to number 25. The spinner face shown is divided into 8 equal sections. The arrow on this spinner is spun once. What is the probability that the arrow will land on a section that is labeled with a number greater than 3? What I'm looking at is 1, 2, 4, 2, 5, 3, 1, 2. And it wants to know a number greater than 3. 4 is greater than 3. 5 is greater than 3. 3 is not greater than 3. So there's only 2 numbers here. So you're going to say it would happen 2 times. But again, how many possible answers were there? There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. When it talks about probability, it needs a fraction. My bottom number is how many total answers that there could have been. So it's 2 out of 8. If I reduce this, this is going to be 1 out of 4. And this one doesn't want the percent, but if it wanted the percent, I would do 1 divided by 4. Moving on to number 26. A drawer contains a blue shirt, a black shirt, and a white shirt. And another drawer contains a blue pair of pants and a black pair of pants. 1 shirt and 1 pair of pants are chosen at random. How many different possible outcomes are there? So we're talking about these are my shirts. This is blue, black, and white. These are my pants that are available to me. And that's blue and black. So what I have to do is I start over here with my shirts, and I could have a blue shirt. Blue. Let's make blue a little b, because in science blue would be a little b, and black would be a big B. Blue and black have the same letter. I would have a blue. I could still wear this blue shirt with these black pants. So I would have blue-black. Now that's the only combination that I have with my blue shirt. Then I could do black shirt with blue pants. Then I could do black shirt with black pants. Now I go to my white shirt with my blue pants. And then my white shirt with my black pants. Then it says how many combinations are available. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the only way that I can dress myself with my 3 shirts and my 2 pair of pants. So there are 6 possible outcomes. Combinations. This is called a tree diagram, because you're branching off. Again, pause the video anytime you need to pause it so that you can get this copied. Moving on to number 27. The cafe of a model train is 1 inch is 13.5 feet. One of the cars of the model train is 5 inches long. What is the length in feet of the actual train? Well, in this case, I have to put the 5 in the exact same spot as I put the other one, and it's looking for here. And this is one of these pretty problems that I know that it increased 5 times. So all I have to do is 13.5 times 5, and I get 67.5, and this is in feet, so I have to put feet after it. So 67.5 feet. Number 28. Misha has a cube and a right square pyramid that are made of clay. She placed both clay figures on a flat surface. Misha will make slices through each figure that are parallel and perpendicular to the flat surface. Which statements are true about the two-dimensional plane sections that could result from one of these slices? Select all that apply. Well, if I have a cube sitting here, and it wants to make a parallel and perpendicular. This is parallel, and this is perpendicular. This is probably going to slice it like this. I had to draw my cube that way. And then it has a, what was the other one? And a right square pyramid. So it's got a right square pyramid. And we're going to cut it this way and this way, parallel and perpendicular. So choice A says a plane section that is triangular could result from one of these slices through the cube. So if I cut a cube this way or this way, it's not going to make a triangle. It is not A. Moving on to B, a plane section that is square could result from one of these slices through a cube. Well, if I slice through a cube, the only thing that I'm going to get is square, so it is B. A plane section that is rectangular but not square could result from one of these slices through the cube. So if I move on to C, if this is a cube, which is made of squares, there's no way that I can get a rectangle. So it is not C. A plane section that is triangular could result from one of these slices through the pyramid. Well, if I cut this pyramid down this way, I'm going to see a triangle. So it is D. The pyramid is in a triangular shape. And E, a plane section that is square could result from one of these slices through the pyramid. Well, if my pyramid is up this way and I cut it this way, if I'm looking down, if I take the top off this pyramid and look down, I would see a square. It all depends on how perfectly square the bottom is, and it should be because it said right angles. So if the base is a square, I could see a square. So that's B, D, and E. Moving on to number 29. What is the area in square inches of a mirror if the mirror has a diameter of 22 inches? What is the area in square inches of a mirror? Diameter. Well, if it's talking about diameter, then it's talking about a circle. The diameter is what goes all the way through the middle that must pass through the midpoint. And it wants to know the area. The area is the formula pi r square. It wants to know all of the inside of this. Pi r squared, and that's when you slap your knee and you go, ha ha ha, no they're not, pi r round. So you have pi r square, And r in this case is the radius. Radius is 1/2 of the diameter. Well, in this case, my diameter is 12. So if the radius is 1/2, that means my radius is 6. So up here where I see an r, I'm going to put a 6. Pi r squared. Pi 6 squared. This 2 does not mean 6 times 2. It means it means write the 6 twice. So this is pi 6 6. Now this does not mean 6 6. You have to multiply these because they're side by side. So this is pi 36. And if you will notice in the answers, they still have the pi. So they put the coefficient before the variable like they're supposed to. And they have 36 pi. So they're assuming you don't know what pi is, but most of you know that pi is 3.14. So you would multiply this. But in this case, they're leaving the pi symbol there, so you don't multiply it. If you need to pause this video to copy down anything, please do so. Moving on to number 30. What is the measure in degrees of angle X? Well, I'm looking at something that looks like this, and this is 121 degrees. Any angle that is straight across from it is called a vertical angle. And you should be able to notice that it's small and continues to get larger. This one is small, continues to get larger. And if I were to fold this over onto this one, it would be the exact same angle. So this is 121. Vertical angles are identical. So that answer would be 121 degrees. Vertical angles are identical. Everything is based on a straight line being 180 degrees. So that means that this one would be 79, and since this one is straight across from it, it would be 79. Circles are 360. Triangles are 180. So these are the things that you need to know so that you can work with your geometry. But vertical angles straight across from each other are the exact same. Moving on to number 31. 3 towns in South Lake County voted on building a new soccer complex. The table below shows the number of people that voted in each town and the voting results. Rivertown had 20,000. Yes votes were 3 out of 4. Hot Springs had 30,000. They had 80% voted yes. And Granville had 15,000, and 2/3 of the people voted yes. It wants to find the number of yes votes in South Lake County. So this is a case that it wants to do. South Lake County is every one of those. So I have to do 3/4. It wants to know what 3/4 of 20,000 is, because this is how many people voted yes. It wants to know what 80% of 30,000 is. It wants to know what 2/3 of 15,000 is. So this is where I bring up my calculator. Now my calculator is not as fancy as yours. Yours you would be able to, you know that of means multiply. So you'd just be able to punch this into your calculator and do 3/4 of, which times 20,000, 80% times 30,000. And 2/3 times 15,000. I have to do 0.75 times 20,000. That gives me 15,000. So 15,000 voted yes. 80%, I have to do 0.80. I got to move my decimal times 30,000. That's going to give me 24,000. And the last one, 2 out of every 3, I can't do that on my calculator because I can't do 0.6666666666666666. So what I have to do here is that I know that if it's cut into 3 things, well, that's going to be 5,000, 10,000, and 15,000. And if I have 2 of them, that would be 10,000. Then I add all this together. So that's 15,000 plus 24,000 plus 10,000 for a total of 49,000 yes votes. Again, pause this video if you need to, so you can copy down everything. Moving on to number 32. It wants to change 7/8 to a decimal. Well, if I'm looking at a fraction and I'm really confused and don't know what to do, that means divide. So it really means 7 divided by 8. So I pull up my calculator and do 7 divided by 8, and I get 0.875. Number 33. Which expression represents a factorization of 32m plus 56mp? So what we've got is we have 4 answer choices there. So we've got to figure out the factors for 32. I can make 32 with 1 times 32, 2 times 16, 4 times 8. I still have numbers between. 5 doesn't work, 6 doesn't work, 7 doesn't work. This is my factors of 32. I have to make factors of 56. That's 1 times 56. That's 2 times 28. 3 does not work. 4 works. 4 times 1, 4 times 14. 5 doesn't work. 6 doesn't work. 7 times 8 is 56. There's no more numbers between these, so there's nothing else to choose. Now I see what's the largest thing that they have in common. What I'm looking for is an 8. Box this, because that's the factors that I use, which means that I can pull an 8 out. Oh, look, they share an M. I can pull an M out. That leaves me with a 4, no letter, plus leaves me with a 7 with a letter of P. So that's 8M times the quantity 4 plus 7P. Pause the video if you need to pause it to copy this down before we move on. Moving on to number 34. Ben earns $9 an hour and $6 for each delivery he makes. He wants to earn more than $154 in a workday. What is the least number of deliveries he must to reach his goal? So he makes $9 an hour, so that's $9 times each hour, plus he makes $6 for each delivery he makes. He wants to earn more than $155 in an 8-hour workday. So he wants to make more than, so I have to put a more than sign. $155. So it says he's going to work for 8 hours. So this is 9 times 8. So I know he's going to make $72. Well, if he's going to make 72 and he wants to make more than 155, I got to see how much more he needs to make. $6 per delivery, and he wants to make more than $83. So this is what we were doing yesterday. This is multiplication. So the D has the Ebola. The 6 has to slide over. So this is a division. And when I pull this up, I do 83 divided by 6, and I'm going to get 13.8. Now you cannot make 13.8 deliveries. So this answer is going to be 14. He must make 14 deliveries. So if he makes 14 deliveries, this is going to be $72. This is going to be $84. So this is $156. He has made more than his $155. So this time I'm going to move on to number 35. Moving on to number 35. If you look in your book, 35 says, Salid bought 35 feet of window trim at a hardware store. The trim cost $1.75 per foot, including sales tax. If Salid paid with a $100 bill, how much change should he have received? So he's buying 35 feet of window trim. And the cost of this window trim is $1.75 per foot. That means that I'm going to have to add $1.75 for the first foot, $1.75 for the second foot, $1.75 for the third foot, so forth, so on. Or you take your calculator and you do the quick addition, which is 35 times 1.75. So we would multiply these two together, and you would get $61.25. It does not ask for the cost of the stuff. It says if he paid with a $100 bill, what would his change be? So he's paying with a $100 bill. You would subtract $61.25. So I'll pull up my calculator again. A $100 bill minus 61.25. The correct answer would be $38.75. So if he bought this stuff, paid with a $100 bill, he would have $38.75. If you need to pause this video so that you can get this written, please pause this video. Moving on to number 36. $36 says members of a baseball team raised $967.50 to go to a tournament. They rented a bus for $450 and budgeted $28.75 per player for meals. They will spend all the money they raised. How many players, P, can the team could bring to this tournament? That's bad wording. Can the team bring to this tournament? So they raised $967.50. They paid $450 for a bus. So I know that money's out the window. Gone to a bus. So this was the price of the bus. So that means that I have $517.50 to spend on the money for my players. So I've got $517.50 to spend for my players. It says that every player is going to eat, and they're going to spend $28.75 to eat. $28.75 per player. And it wants to know how many players get to eat. So I'm going to have to add $28.75 once, twice, 3 times, 4 times until I reach $517. Or I can divide these two things, which would be a whole lot faster. So you would pull up your calculator and you would do 517.5 divided by $28.75. And it tells me that 18 players get to eat, so there's 18 players on this baseball team. So 18 players would get to eat. At any time you need to pause this video, please do so that you can get everything copied. Moving on to number 37. It says, which number is located the same distance on a number line from -5 as 3 is? So here we're going to be looking at a number line. Here's my 0. Here's -5. And here is 3. So we're making a number line that has a -5 and a 3. How far is 3 from -5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's 8 away. So it wants to know which number is also 8 away from -5. So I've got to go 8 this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. -6, -7, -8, -9, -10, -11, -12, and -13. -13 is 8 away from -5, just like 3 is 8 away from -5. I had to read this one 2 or 3 times just to figure out what they were talking about. So I can imagine that as you read this, it's kind of difficult to even understand what it's saying. On a number line, 3 is 8 away and -13 is 8 away. So once you see this, this is an easy question, but it was worded, I thought it was worded funny. Moving on to number 38. Which statements are true? It says mark all that apply. The distance between -7 and 9 on a number line is 16. Well, if you turn to look at the number line on my wall, and you look at -7 and you count all the way to 9, that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So that would be 16 spaces away. So it says that it is 16 spaces away, so that would be one of them that is true. B says the distance between 8 and -3 is 11. So I would go up, I would find the 8, and I would count until I got to -3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Is it 11 spaces away? It is, so we would check that one. The distance between -5 and 15 is 10. So I would go to -5. I would count all the way to 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And it is 15 spaces away, and it says it's 10. So that one is not checked. The last one says the distance between 12 and negative 2 on a number line is 14. So again, I would look at the wall, find my 12, count to negative 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It is 14 spaces away, and it says it's 14 spaces away. So 3 of these would be checked, A, B, and D. There's nothing to write down on this one as long as you turn to look at that integers on my wall. Number 39. Decide whether each expression simplifies to a number less than negative 1, greater than 1, or neither. Select one answer for each part of the question. So this is number 39. First one is negative 3 divided by negative 4. This is where I pull up my calculator and I do negative 3. That's got a minus sign. I got to try it again. Negative 3 divided by negative 4. And that must not be how you do negatives. 3 negative. There we go. 3 negative divided by 4 negative is equal to 0.75. If this is negative 1, this is 0, and this is 1. 0.75 would be right here between 0 and 1, so it would be less than 1. It says that it's looking for less than negative 1 and greater than 1. So it wants anything that goes here and anything that goes here. 0.75 does not work. Negative 5 divided by 2. It wants the opposite of whatever 5 divided by 2 is. So I'll pull up my calculator. 5 divided by 2 is going to be 2.5. It wants the opposite of that. So negative 2.5 is going to be over here. Is that in my range? The next one is 8 over 3 times negative 3/5. So I know my answer is going to be a negative. I don't have a fancy calculator, so I can't do it on my calculator like you can. 8 times 3 would be 24. 3 times 5 is 15. It's negative. So it's going to be negative 1 and 9/15. So that's going to be less than negative 1. So negative 1 and 9/15. So that falls in the range that I want it to fall in. So that one would be a yes. That would be less than negative 1. Then I've got 2 times negative 7 over 2. 2 times negative 7 over 2. Put a 1 over this one. Cancel these. Leaves me negative 7 divided by 1, which is negative 7. Negative 7 is going to be way over here. So that's less than negative 1. So I would fill in less than negative 1. Guys, when I look at this number line, this kind of tells me where my answers fall. That's less than, this is greater than. The next one is negative 10 divided by 6, which is going to be negative 1 and 2/3. Negative 1 and 2/3 goes way over here. Negative 1 and 2/3. So that would also be less than negative 1. So you would bubble in less than negative 1. There was one that had a neither. They were all less. There was nothing bigger than 1, was there? This one. I did this one wrong. I did this one wrong. this was a negative. Two negatives make a positive, so this one should have really been positive 7. And that's how easy it is to miss one, because I would have just missed that one. Moving on to number 40. It says the population of a city is expected to increase by 7.5% next year. If P represents the current population, which expression represents the expected population next year? So we have an expression here, so there's no equal sign. So we're talking about 7.5% of the population. So if I had a calculator, I would do 7.5% times the population, because of means times. And there is nothing here that even looks like that. Nothing has a percent sign. So I got to make that percent sign go away. I move it 2 spaces to the left. So it's really 0.075 of means times. Population said that it just used a P. So it's 0.075 times P. So the only one that looks like that is 1.075p. They put the 1 in front of it so that it automatically adds this back, because I would have to do plus the population to get it back. Well, my population, if I multiply p times 1, then that gets the answer back. Putting a 1 in front of it is just like adding it back in. Moving on to number 41. If you'll find in your book, number 41. It says Letitia randomly selected 25% of the 7th grade students in her school and asked them their favorite season. Of the students surveyed, 51% chose summer as their favorite season. Based on the data, what is the most reasonable prediction of the number of 7th grade students in her school who would choose summer as their favorite students? So we've got, for number 41, 25% of students was 51 kids. So remember, as I write this, you should be writing in your book. So the word of means to multiply, and I'm looking for the number of students. So this is my variable. 25%, going to move this decimal 2 spaces, so it means 0.25 times students would give me 51. Just yesterday, we did simple equations that look just like this. S has the Ebola. The 0.25 needs to move to the other country. So we know it's multiplication, so when it crosses the equal sign, Border Patrol changes it to divide. So it's really 51 divided by, that's not the way we did it yesterday, is it? We did it after it. Divided by 0.25. This is gone. So S is going to be whatever that is. So I pull up my calculator, and I do 51 divided by 0.25, and it should be approximately 204, because it asks which one would be a good answer. It doesn't say which one is the answer. Which one would be a good answer? So you're looking at it. A is 15, B is 75, C is 150, and D is 200. 200 is the closest to 204. So you need to check the box that says 200. And this is why. At any time you need to pause the video, please pause the video so that you can get this copied. And we are moving on. Number 42. Number 42 says, which tree diagram shows all the possible outcomes for tossing a coin and rolling a fair number pyramid that has 4 sides labeled 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I'm going to toss a coin, it can either land on heads or tails. The heads then, if I roll the pyramid, would either be a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4. So I could get heads 1, I could get heads 2, I could get heads 3, or I could get heads 4. Moving on. Okay, so it could land on heads 1, heads 2, heads 3, heads 4. Or the coin could have landed on a tails. If it lands on a tails first, then the dice could land on a 1. If it lands on tails, it could land on a 2. If it lands on tails, it could land on a 3. Or if it lands on tails, the dice could have been a 4. So we're looking at tails and a 1, tails and a 2, tails and a 3, and tails and a 4. These are the only 8 combinations that I can get from a coin and a 4-sided dice. So I'm going to look at my choices here. A choice only says that the dice is going to land on heads. Sorry, the coin is only going to land on heads. So it's not A. The B says that heads could only land on a 1 or a 2. And tails could only land with a 3 and a 4. So we know that's not true. So we go down to C. C says heads, oh, it looks right, but the heads is 1, 1, 2, 2. If I flip a coin with the heads, the dice would never land on 4 at the same time. So it has to be answer choice D. So fill in the check mark that says answer choice D. Moving on to number 43. Number 43 says line KN represents a proportional relationship. Point N is at 1812 as shown on the graph below. Which ordered pair could represent the coordinate of point K? So we're looking for K. If N is right here, and it says that it is proportional, I know that it has to be a direct hit. So on your paper, you're going to draw a line straight down so that it hits 0, 0. And then we go to answer choice A. It says 6, 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, 0 is right here. Does that hit the line? No. So it can't be that one. The second one says 2, 3. So we go over 2 and up 3. And I can't tell because mine's not perfect. Does it hit at 2, 3? Okay, 2, 3 doesn't hit. Go to 1.50. 1.5 is somewhere between 1 and 2. That's not it. Go to 7.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's between here and here. And go up 5, and it should hit it. If you have a bad graph, again, we are talking about proportions. So there should be a constant. It said n is at 1812. So we know that constant is equal to y over x. Pull up my calculator, and I can do 12 divided by 18. That gives me 0.66667. I know these zeros are not it. I absolutely know that I'm not going to get 0.667 with those zeros, so I'm going to try 5 divided by 7.5, 0.66667. So according to the math, not just the graph, to find the constant, I can divide, and I could find out that it was 7.55. So you've drawn this, went over 2, up 3, went over 7.5 and up 5, and hopefully that one hit it. If on the test they have something like this, take a book or something and make that be a straight edge. If it's proportional, remember, it hits right there. Moving on to number 44. '44 says, which expression represents the product of 3 and 5/4 n plus 1/8? So we've got 3 5/4 n plus 1.8. This is what we've been doing. This is the distributive property. We know the 3 multiplies here, and we know the 3 multiplies here. This is one of those now that you should be able to say, oh, I can get this one right. This is one that I can do. 3 over 1 times 5 over 4. This is going to be 1.25. Let me pull up my calculator. You would have a calculator. Dang it. Sorry. 3 times 5 over 4. You could type into your calculator 3 times, and you could put 5 BC4, and it would work. I've got to do 3 times 1.25. That's going to give me 3.75 or 3 3/4. They use 3.75. So 3.75, and then don't forget your n. Plus sign stays. Then I'm going to do 3 times 1.8. That's going to give me 5.4. So I'll look. The one that says 3.7 n plus 5.4 is answer choice D. So copy this down. Make sure that you check answer choice D. And this is one of those 5 questions that you should be able to get right now that you probably missed last time. Moving on to number 45. '45 reads, the elevation at ground level is 0 feet. An elevator starts 90 feet below the ground level. After traveling for 15 seconds, the elevator is 20 feet below ground level. Which statement describes the elevator's rate of change in elevation during this 15-second interval? So we went, if this is 0, it didn't get above 0, so let me move my 0 and make it a little higher. If this is 0, this is -10, -20, -30, -40, -50, -60, -70, -80, -90. So this is where my elevator's at. And it says that my elevator moves from 90 feet below to 20 feet below. So my elevator moves. Come on, elevator. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. My elevator moved 70 feet. And it took 15 seconds. Now on this one, it wants to know how many feet per second it moved. So we're looking for feet per second. So we know that this means divide. I'll pull up my calculator. 70 divided by 15. And it's 4.6667. If you hit the F to D button on your calculator, that would be 4 2/3 feet per second. So I go look at my answer choices. The answer choice that says 4 2/3 feet per second, there are two of them. There's a B and there's a D. And if you noticed on my visual, it went up. So the answer choice has to be B. The elevator traveled upward at a rate of 4 2/3 feet per second. So that would be answer choice B. And that's one of those, even if you didn't know the answer or couldn't figure out how I'm supposed to divide, there was only two answer choices that went up. We're on the last one, number 46. It says Henry has a fair number pyramid with 4 faces. So there's that pyramid again. So if I'm looking at a pyramid, it's got 3 sides and it has a base. So it's got 3 sides and then this base is underneath. That's why that dice only has 4 sides. I wish that they would use a 6-sided dice so it made sense to you, because most of you don't play Dungeons and Dragons and you've never seen a 4-sided dice. So it says Henry has a fair number pyramid with 4 faces and a spinner with 3 equal size colored sections. The possible outcome for each are below. So the pyramid can have 4 different things. The spinner has a red, a blue, and a green. What is the probability that the number pyramid will land on a 3 and the spinner will land on blue? So I'm going to put my spinner is red, blue, and green. When I flip my spinner, that's the only things that can happen is red, blue, and green. If the spinner spins on a red and then I roll my dice, the only thing the dice can land on is a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4. That's it. So if my spinner's a 1, the only thing my dice can be is a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4. If my spinner lands on blue, and then I roll my dice, the only thing that the dice can be is a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4. If my spinner lands on green, again, the only thing the dice can be is a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4. So then I count across. This would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There are 12 possible outcomes. And it's asking me that what's the probability that it's going to be a 3 and a blue. 3 blue. that's only going to happen the one time. So that's going to be 1 time out of 12. So it's 1 out of 12. And you write that as a fraction. And I'll look at my answer choices, and that would be answer choice A. Again, this is a tree diagram. A tree diagram starts with one of the things that can happen, and then it extends to the other things that can happen. Okay, you have now seen numbers 20 through 46. So that is 27 skills that you have seen. Some of them have been repeated. You're going to go to the other workbook that starts with the number 1, and you will try to find the ones that look like the ones that you just did in part 2 and see if you can work the ones in part 1. This is practice. Our district assessment number 2 is coming up. We're looking for a gain. So you've got to find the ones that you think, hey, I can do this one. You need 4 or 5. So let's don't shoot for 4. Let's try for 5. You need 5 of these that you can say, I know I can get this one right.